welcome to the show. If you're just joining us, press the like button. We'd like to know who is joining us. We want to hear from you with your views, your comments, your contributions. And we are broadcasting live every night until the elections, so make sure you tune in. In studio with me tonight, I have two political analysts. That's Acie Lumumba and Agency Gumbo. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Rudo, and thank you for having us.
Head bowed.
Hey, Acie. Well, today we saw the president had an interface with the white community in Borodale, and he also had a rally in Marondera. We want to see whether he is really winning. Is he speaking to the electorate? Is he speaking to you, the voters? Is he articulating the manifesto of Zanu PF and what he will bring to the table if he is elected? We want to also know whether Nelson Chamisa is speaking to you, the voter. Are you convinced? Are you sure that he has your interests at heart? He had a rally today at White City Stadium, and he was endorsed by Dumiso Dawengwa. What does that mean? Is it important? Does it change the game in any way? AC, what is your view?
So, today was a very tricky day for me to analyze, because I feel as if both candidates were at work. Chamisa was at work in a very strong base of his, which is what I've actually always said Chamisa needs to do, that he needs to synthesize all his efforts into strengthening his base. So he was at White City today. The president was in Marondera, but he was also with the white community earlier. So if the question is who had a better day, I think today they probably both had good days because they both got what they expected. However, you mentioned the issue of endorsements. Dumiso Dawengwa endorses Nelson Chamisa. For me, so what? I mean, so what? What does that do for Nelson Chamisa versus what it does for ED? Was ED expecting to get anything out of Bulawayo anyway? Versus ED gets endorsed by the white community. Now, there you got a problem. Because Chamisa, if you ask Chamisa, who would you have rather endorsing you today? Would you have rather Zimbabwean white community, which makes up Zimbabwean capital, endorsing you, or would you be rather endorsed by Dumiso Dawengwa? Understand what happened between Dumiso Dawengwa and Zanu PF. Dumiso Dawengwa wanted to be vice president of Zanu PF. They rejected him. Why did they reject him? Because Zanu PF already decided they see no value in him. So MDC didn't take anything away from Zanu PF. Zanu PF didn't want the guy. Whereas Chamisa, since he got into office, has not only been trying, he has been desperately hoping to get the attention of white capital in Zimbabwe and failing. So ultimately, I think ED wins the day in that regard as far as endorsements are concerned. But as far as rallies are concerned, White City was a good show for Nelson Chamisa. If that was a rally by ED, of course I don't think ED will be excited. But for Chamisa, going to Bulawayo, remember why I'm saying it's good for Chamisa. This is so-called Thokozani Kupe's terrain. This is where Thokozani Kupe is supposed to make it impossible for Chamisa. So for him to do that, well done on Chamisa. But I don't know, man. I just think the machinery of ED is impossible to contest with right now.
We will come back to the issue of white people and white capital, right, and whether we can say ED was endorsed. But before we get to that, what was your take, Agency, of the two rallies today, where we saw President Emmerson Mnangagwa in Marondera and Borodale, and then Chamisa in Bulawayo? All right. Who won the day?
Well, I'll obviously respond to some of the issues raised by my colleague in submission. But prior to that, let me first characterize President Chamisa's rally today in Bulawayo. It can be characterized as maybe the climax of his political run or of his political campaign or his run to presidency. And the endorsements that we saw coming from, the former intelligence supremo of the liberation struggle, Dumiso Dawengwa, and also, remember, it was not only Dumiso Dawengwa, we also had the son of the late Father Zimbabwe, Dr. Joshua Nkomo, coming in to endorse Nelson Chamisa and say he's the right man for the job and he's the best foot forward. This proves one thing. This proves that President Nelson Chamisa is a unifier. It proves that he's a man who has understood that for Zimbabwe to progress and for Zimbabwe to go forward, you need to be able not to marginalize any province, not to marginalize any group on the basis of ethnicity, but you need to bring everybody into a conglomerate and of course, effect the offensive against ZANU-PF and the ZANU-PF oligarchs. To say that it's irrelevant for ED, for Dabengwa to endorse Chamisa, will be an utter falsehood, because Dumiso Dabengwa represents the voice of Matebeleland. He represents the voice of ZAPU. He represents the voice of the war veterans themselves, because now you realize the very same people that got ZANU-PF where it is today, these very same people that won the liberation of this country, are the ones that are coming forward to say the vision that we so much fought for, the independence that we so much fought for, is got to be now nourished by fresh and energetic minds of visionary leaders, particularly in the mold of President Nelson Chamisa. Coming back to ED's meeting with the white people, I would say, well, there's nothing amiss. He needs one thing, and ED understands this. ZANU-PF has, since independence, had a very bad relationship with the white community. MDC has never had a bad relationship with the white community. Why? Because we're an all-encompassing political party. It's a political party that has said Zimbabwe is not for blacks, Zimbabwe is not for whites. Zimbabwe is for every person who is a citizen of Zimbabwe, and every person should play a critical and significant role in moving the country forward. ED now, on the other hand, he has been the black sheep of the white community. So what he's trying to do now is reaching out to the people that he knows are going to be significant, in his run to presidency. He understands that, no, I need to reach out to the people that will also bring in the money for his Zimbabwe Open for Business mantra, which obviously, raises a lot of questions. And the Marondera rally, he's on a campaign. He's doing what he's doing best. But one thing I can tell you is that you can notice clearly the difference in the electricity within the crowds of both rallies. When Nelson Chamisa goes, there is a roar. Why? Because he gives people hope. His message is that Zimbabwe can work again. Whereas you have another person in the mode of ED who's going around and repeating the same mantra, but still does not provide any symbol or symbol of hope to the people, because he has been part of the dictatorship for 38 years. So, I would say ED had a bad day today. ED just met people, but still he can feel himself. You can feel the ZANU-PF machinery itself, you can feel it shaking and shivering whenever Nelson Chamisa stands up to address the people of Zimbabwe.
Okay, so let me try to put some more context to this. When you have rallies and you have meetings on the run-up to election, the question is, you are doing it so that you achieve what? What is the end goal? So you are going through this process so that on election day, you win the votes. This is what you're doing it for. So let's go to what Agency began. The premise of his statement is, Nelson Chamisa is now in pretty much his climax. I quote him verbatim. He said, climax. Do you know what a climax is? A climax, it's a climax, right?
Okay.
No panona gapacho pa climax. So, if you're saying what Nelson Chamisa did today in Bulawayo is the climax, and it's a climax because he got Dumiso Dabengwa and Joshua Nkomo's son, that's a climax, then you should know you're in trouble. Let me tell you how you know you're in trouble. Agency, who I think is a far more useful asset in MDC alliance than Dumiso Dabengwa, is not being put on a stage in MDC. So I would rather have his endorsement than have Dumiso Dabengwa's endorsement. Why would you care about an endorsement from a man whose political party failed to field more than 10 candidates? They failed, which means they don't even have enough structures internally to be able to field more than 10 candidates, let alone be able to get supporters. It's such a flawed argument to say we're loved everywhere. Bulawayo has 10 seats. Bulawayo alone. Not talking about the rest of the Matebeleland. and he's only got 10 candidates. So it's a very flawed reasoning to say, well, we've got a strong power base, but we can't prove it. We just know we have it because I'm an intelligence grandmaster from the days of the military. Then the agency goes on to say that Nelson Chamisa proved today that he is a unifier. And he proved today he's a unifier because he took a Zanu PF reject. And he took Joshua Nkomo's son. So he proved he's a unifier. Oh, let me ask something. How? How? How is he a unifier when he can't deal with Thokozani Kupe? How is he a unifier when he can't deal with Jesse Majome? How is he a unifier when his very own party, when you look at the hierarchy at the top, how are you unifying when you can put young people in the same leadership structures that command the alliance? How are you a unifier when you can put women in there? How are you a unifier when Douglas Monzora is eyeing and cannot wait to remove Nelson Chamisa? How are you a unifier when you won't allow a democratic process that should select you? That's why you're running away from the court. So no, he is not a unifier. Did he have a good day? Yes. Is he a unifier? No. But now I want to go to ED. ED's strength is not the numbers. That's not ED's strength. The numbers are the collateral benefit. He benefits the numbers. ED's strength is his results. If you drive from Harare to Marondera, where ED's rally was, is the first rally I actually attended in this whole campaign series. I'm attending a Chamisa rally next. If you drive on that road, the dualization project for the Rua Road, which had taken 6 years to try and even begin, and failing under the former minister responsible for transport and infrastructure, is now in the last phase of completion, phase 4. ED in 7 months took a project that was struggling for 7 years. So ED in 9 months now, 7, 9, 8 months, took a project that had been struggling for 6 to 7 years and is entering phase 4, phase 4 of completion. What was ED doing while he was on stage? He was reminding the country the journey he has traveled as president. Of course, everybody wants to talk about the last 37 years, but this election is not about the last 37 years. This election is about the next 37 years. And as far as messaging is concerned, as far as signals are concerned, he's not only got the endorsements which matter, he's got the agenda that is clearer, because he is proving it every single day.
Agency, I'd like your comment on that. But before we get to that, what was Nelson Chamisa's message to Bulawayo? What was he giving them? Did he address any of their concerns? What was he offering?
Well, President Nelson Chamisa addressed quite a number of issues, not only for Bulawayo, but for the people of Zimbabwe. Because remember now, this is a man who, when he speaks, or this is a man who, when he addresses, he's no longer addressing just the people that are immediate to him. He's now addressing the whole of Zimbabwe. He's addressing the whole of the electorate in the country. And but obviously, major highlights to what he said about Bulawayo is the revitalization of industry in Bulawayo, a feat that has, that the people of Bulawayo, the people of Matabeleland have been clamoring for, because it had literally turned into a ghost town where there was inactivity in as far as business and economics or commerce is concerned. So the president was very clear that the agenda, the smart agenda, was to ensure that industry was kick-started, industry was vibrant again, and it would obviously benefit the people of Bulawayo and benefit the people of Zimbabwe. Now, just maybe to get back to some of the issues raised by my colleague here, even an imbecile with half the brains of a dying rat would understand political dynamics. You would not discredit a person who is an opinion leader in a particular society because they've been rejected by another organization or institution. We also have to look critically at why the said person, or particularly in the mode of Dubiso Dabenga, was expelled from Zanu PF. We have to look at also the decisions that he deliberately took, not under duress, to make sure that he doesn't, toe the line of Robert Mugabe and toe the line of dictatorship. This is a man who has represented himself to the people of Zimbabwe and the people of Matabeleland in particular as a man who, with the need and desire to unify Zimbabwe, not to divide Zimbabwe into Matabeleland and Mashonaland, but to bring Zimbabwe together. So when I made an indication of Nelson Chamisa being a unifier, you look at the relationship that he has created and molded with the people in the leadership and the elders, rather, of Matabeleland, in the mold of the son of Joshua Nkomo and also Dabengwa himself. That shows you one thing, that he is resonating the same message that Dabengwa has been preaching in Matabeleland in Zimbabwe. The same message that Joshua Nkomo preached about unity and solidarity among all Zimbabweans. It's the same message that the President Nelson Chamisa is raising today, to say you are not less Zimbabwean because you are Ndebele. You are as Zimbabwean as it gets, and we need you. And Matabeleland itself, Bulawayo particularly, is a significant piece of the puzzle in developing the country called Zimbabwe. So you see, to then discredit such a unit, or to then discredit having these men sit on the same table and share the vision. Dabengwa will represent one thing. Dabengwa represents the liberation struggle. Dabengwa represents the resolve that our grandfathers and fathers had to take Zimbabwe from the white capital oligarchs. That's what he represents. And now he's coming back to say, young man, Nelson Chamisa, what you represent is the step forward. What you represent is the next 37 years that Lumumba was talking about. I represent the 37 years that are past. I represent the 50 years that are past when we started and made a resolve to go to the liberation struggle. But now you represent that which Zimbabwe has been waiting for. That which we fought for, we might not then be able to enjoy and see it. But you are the one who's going to deliver it to the people of Zimbabwe. He is passing on the baton. So that's a significant message. And in the world and sphere of politics, it can never be taken lightly. A message, regardless of the fact that he failed to field 10 candidates, regardless of that fact, it's a message that says, we are here to endorse the next generation. We are here to say, look, we have played our part. It's now the time for young people to play their part in moving Zimbabwe forward. So let's not underplay that. Not because the person was expelled from Zanu PF. Idi was once expelled from Zanu PF. Did we underplay that?
Agency. AC brings in the issue of Thokozani Kupi.
Yes.
Would you say that Dumiso Dabengwa is more of a crowd puller than Thokozani Kupi? Meaning, does he have value?
So, in politics, there is the element of crowd and crowd pulling. And then there's also the element of opinion shaping. There's also the element of psyching or psychologically preparing the electorate. So, Dumiso Dabengwa, does he pull more crowds than Chamisa? Obviously not. Has he pulled more crowds than Thokozani Kupi? Of course he has. It's obvious in the public domain. So, but most importantly, Dumiso Dabengwa represents that psychological preparation of the electorate which is resident in Matabeleland. That's what he has done. He has come up to say, look, my fellow Ndebeleans, my fellow people in Matabeleland, my fellow Zimbabweans, I think we have seen a vision that we have all been waiting for, that we failed to get under Robert Mugabe for 37 years, and that Mnangagwa is dismally failing to project in the past 7 months. So Dumiso Dabengwa, other than the crowds, Nelson Chamisa right now is at a stage in his political career where he doesn't need a crowd puller. Because he himself represents a symbol that if he says he's coming to the shops today, you are guaranteed the shops are shutting down. Why? Because the people have reacted and responded to his message with positivity. So Dabengwa for us, or Dabengwa for myself, and in my opinion, represents that person who is psyching up the electorate for the change that delivers.
Dumiso Dabengwa represents nothing, okay? If you go to any 25-year-old in Bulawayo, in Matabeleland, or anywhere in the country, and you say to this 25-year-old, you have the next 25 years ahead of you. What does Dumiso Dabengwa represent for you? Nothing, okay? He represents as much nothing as a lot of people, even in Zanu PF, represent nothing. It's not Dumiso Dabengwa, the person that I'm attacking, or the tribe that I'm attacking. It's the generational irrelevance. There is nothing Dumiso Dabengwa brings to the table for your child at home right now. Nothing at all. Now, who brings something on the table for your child at home right now? Nelson Chamisa. So I don't differ that Nelson Chamisa. This is why I have always maintained that he is the only credible opposition leader to even talk about. Nelson Chamisa. He must make certain plays, however, to be able to leverage off of that in order for him to win. What if you're going to say let's not disregard, if the academic and intelligence that agency is putting forward is let's not disregard the relevance of a man because of when he was born or because of the fact that he was thrown away from the party, and let's realize that we got him from Zanu PF. Okay, let's work with that as syllogism. So they won because they took something that was Zanu PF's, made it theirs. So that's how we're marking, right? Good. Now let's look at the alternative. Today, ED was with the white community. Who did the white community in this country support since the year 2000? Who was Morgan Tsvangirai's biggest supporters? The very infrastructure of white capital. Understand, when we moved from 1960 to about 1975, Rhodesian capital became its strongest. The country was under sanctions. We learned how to survive by ourselves. Our agricultural base, if you look at the agricultural index for the country, between 1960 and 1975, Zimbabwe had its, outside of what we did with tobacco in 2010, that's when we had the highest grossing moment of agriculture. It's that white capital that came in when we then won independence in 1980 and started looking for a candidate. The same white capital that then started backing MDC. Now, is that a good thing for MDC? It should be a good thing. I'm sure you want to have white capital supporting you because then you serve their agenda and you serve yours. Now, when the same white capital says we're no longer supporting you, we're switching off of you, and we're going to another candidate, the same syllogism you use for Dubiso Dabengwa, you ought to use it for them. They have lost money. Did Dubiso Dabengwa bring you money? No, not really. Did he bring you an opinion shaper, an opinion leader? Whose opinion? You tell me what 25-year-old you know who's listening to that opinion. Why do I say why 25-year-old? Because that is the average age for the largest group of the virgin voter in this election. Chamisa needs someone who brings him a vote he didn't have. So if Chamisa is bringing in Dubiso Dabengwa's vote, does that matter? I don't think so. Whose vote does Chamisa need more? Dubiso Dabengwa or Thokozani Cooper's vote? If you think Chamisa needs Dubiso Dabengwa's vote, then you are out of control. Because Dubiso Dabengwa doesn't have a vote. He doesn't have 10 candidates.
So are you saying that Chamisa's rally today was a fail for him?
Not at all.
What message did he give?
Why I say Chamisa did well is when you are from Mashingo, which is where Chamisa is from, and you go to Bulawayo to have a rally, and you get any crowd, oh, we should clap hands for you. Because Bulawayo has an undertone, Matebeleland has an undertone, where generally, dismiss already. This is where the prowess and charm of Tsvangirai was very impressive. That Tsvangirai could go there and he could charm the crowd. So when Nelson Chamisa went there, his crowd was definitely smaller than what Tsvangirai did, but that's neither here nor there for me because I still think that province is theirs. I still think you take Bulawayo. So I don't think he had a bad day in the office. I think he had a good day in the office. But if we're saying in line with where we are going to get to the finish line, is it enough for him to get over the mark? No. Because what? One side juice. Side. So yes, Chamisa anga chiruka ne one side juice, but the other side mafeta atorwa, ma India atorwa, ma Canada atorwa, ma foreign ma embassy atorwa. Saka Chamisa had a good day, but not ahead of ED. That's why I say I think they both had good days.
Agency are burning to say something.
It's a very shallow narrative to say that because ED met the whites, ED met the Indians, he has taken the whites and the Indians' vote. I don't know where the mathematics they add up, because remember these are Zimbabweans. The Indians that the president met, President Mnangagwa met, and the white people that President Mnangagwa met. These are all Zimbabweans who are a significant population also in the country, minority as it may be. And for him to meet these people doesn't necessarily mean that they have already aligned themselves to his message. There is a very interesting picture that has been circulating on social media, and I wish I was able to tender it as evidence, of a white old man who was at the rally wearing a Chamisa cap. What that shows you is that this is a person who understands and who can, borrow through the political divide and say, well, you are my president, you are the president of the country. So if you come here and you want to tell us something, I will come. Chero ndisingatokude hangu chero ndisingazokuvotere ndiri kuya nekepi yangu ichimudhara chete chete aniti iwewe uri president wenyika toda kumbonzwawo kuti uri kufungei nezviri kuitika munyika. So these people came, but it's not a guarantee of the vote. Let's be very clear about that. Okay. So don't say varungu vatogba, don't say the Indians have been taken, because there is no formula for that.
But there absolutely is a formula. The same intelligence you call shallow is the very same intelligence you've just used. What is that intelligence? Agency says that there is a man who, there could have been more, but we saw one, who went to this rally and they're wearing a hat. This hat shows that this man, ladies, the hat says Chamisa, right? Chamisa chete chete. Which then gives you the science you're using to say it demonstrates he is a Chamisa supporter. Okay, let's say there were others and we just didn't get to see them. Which then we must use the same science to say that those who were wearing ED's hats are ED supporters. Because how then do you say that no, the only ones who we can prove are Chamisa supporters, are political supporters, the ones who are wearing Chamisa's hats, but then the other ones, yeah, they're not ED supporters. That is the clear sign of endorsement based on his science, not mine. I didn't even say the science of regalia is what we're using. I was going to give you a different science. But using his science, if one person was wearing a Chamisa hat at a meeting, we assume that person is a Chamisa supporter. If a person was wearing a Thokozani Kupe hat, we assume he's a Thokozani Kupe supporter. But most importantly, I must say, the same way this independent Jimmy, the guy's name is Jimmy, came to this rally wearing his hat, I am saying these people also left their house, go to the rally wearing their hats. So if it was a contest of white people have all gone to see ED from the different political divides, so it proved it was from different political divides. Then who had the majority of that political divide? ED or Chamisa? Go figure.
Before, I would like to hear from those who attended this meeting. If you went to that Borrowdale interface with the white community, let us know, what were your thoughts? Acie, on your page, you said something about so many empty white seats. What did you mean by that?
Oh, okay, so hold on.
I was going to raise that.
You know, that was before I saw the crowd, you know?
Okay.
So before I saw the tens of thousands of the people who were there, I had seen these white chairs. No, okay, so here's my thoughts about the white chairs. Whoever organized this particular event, and I'm not in organizing, I'm not even the executive of Zanu, so I don't know, but whoever organized this event did a terrible job compared to the organizing of the event with the Asian community or the Acadian community. This was a very poorly organized function. And I call it poorly for anyone who does event planning will tell you this thing. The aesthetics were wrong. The timing was bad. The location was horrible. It was just a terrible, terrible organization. Whoever organized it did a terrible job. Because I also think they didn't put way too many chairs than the chairs that were required. And I think they did on the wrong day. They didn't consult the right people. But as of the people who were there, now I wasn't there, so I don't know how many. Neither of us were there, so I don't know how many were there. But I am judging based on those that were there. And as agency has already assisted us in knowing that it wasn't a ZANU-PF function. It was a function for people, white people, who wanted to meet ED. Now it just seems more of them who went there happened to be ZANU-PF patrons. Now, if Chamisa has his meeting, by the way, we haven't seen one, but should Chamisa have his meeting, but since he's already reached his climax, Chamisa hanza climax, but if he was to, I would like to see if he can pull half of the same crowd.
Acie is saying that it could just have been an organizational issue, that perhaps the message didn't get to the white community on time about this event. Do you think that Emmerson Mnangagwa today won the hearts and minds of the white community?
You see, what's appalling is the contradictions in my brother's submissions. He says at one point, the meeting with the white people showed a victory from Mnangagwa with the whites. And then at the same time, in the same hour, he then attests that it was a poorly organized meeting. And, there were organizational errors or planning errors, as he suggests. So, obviously, I'll let the viewers decide and adjudicate on those submissions. But let me come back to the issue you just raised right now about whether he won the white people and the white community. Let me tell you something. Unoza kuti hapana chinhu chinonetsa sekutengesa rovambira menu kufamba nerovambira a black mamba, a live black mamba, and attempt to sell it. ED is that black mamba. That's very difficult to sell because he's got a lot of cleansing to do with a lot of groupings in the country. And this is what he has been on a rampage trying to do. He's meeting certain people that at one point in his life, he would not want to meet face to face. He's meeting people who in the corridors of their houses still shiver when they hear about him and hear his name. So when he went to meet them there were people who went there, obviously because they were wanting to say, okay, let's see how this guy is presenting himself to us now. And then there are people who obviously did not go there because they don't trust the guy. And this is the exact prevailing attitude with most Zimbabweans in our country. Every citizen, most citizens rather, have a serious mistrust of the man who has been, the right-hand man of the dictator that fell in November 2017, who has been right there, right at the zenith of things, right when the Zimbabwean economy collapsed. He was there. He was the guy running the briefs. He was the guy running things in government. And now he is the president. He just happens to have reformed. And we are just supposed to believe it and trust that you failed to do something for our country. For the past 37 years, you've been part of a machinery that destroyed this country. And all of a sudden, you are the Messiah. You want to save us from yourself. How is that possible? So, did he win the white people? Did he win the white hearts? I say the same way ED is failing to win back the trust of most Zimbabweans is the same way he failed to win the trust of the white community in Zimbabwe. These are people who are straight up about their dealings. They know, they read people, and they know. You can't. You are like this. Now, all of a sudden, Wachinja in 24 hours. How am I supposed to believe that? So, it's my opinion that I don't think he really proved the white crowd. The white crowd is a very clever and sharp crowd. They understand dynamics of politics and capital politics too. And they know very well that the man who is bringing food to the table, Nelson Chamisa.
Let's talk about contradictions. I find it bizarre that he speaks about contradictions while contradicting himself.
Okay.
Agency says that you can't say ED got the endorsement and at the same time say the event wasn't organized to perfection. Because if it was the reasoning, I guess, being if he got the endorsement, the event would have been organized to perfection. No, the two don't tally. That's like me saying we can't say Nelson Chamisa has any more people that support him outside of the people that go to the rallies. It would be fair to assume that Nelson Chamisa has other supporters in Bulawayo outside of the ones who went to the rally. In fact, he might even have more who didn't attend than the ones who did attend. Now, for whatever reason they didn't attend, it could be because they don't like being out in the cold. It could be because they don't like to be seen supporting. It could be because they love Nelson Chamisa but they picked the wrong day. The point is, they could be there but didn't attend, right? Unless you're saying that, no, that was all and sundry. On the same breath, that's my reasoning for saying, while you may have 5 who came to ED's rally, I think the organization was poor because you should have facilitated to have as many as you would have liked to have. Now, this whole narrative about, Chamisa is the man who's taking them to the future, ED's got a terrible past, so they don't trust him, I find it so bizarre. One of the principles of the MDC Alliance, one of the principles, this is even a charge ED doesn't have on him, is Agrippa Mutambara. Agrippa Mutambara. Trudy Stevenson, a supporter and member, senior member of MDC, our ambassador to Senegal, his former ambassador to Senegal now, came out on record talking about the rapes committed on white women by Agrippa Mutambara. And today, Agrippa Mutambara is an Alliance senior executive. And then agency contradicts himself and says, Oh, but the trouble with ED is, oh, people can't just trust you overnight. Because for the last 37 years, ED, you were the same guy who was next to Robert Mugabe. Agrippa Mutambara, the rapist, is on the same panel right next to Nelson Chamisa, but somehow overnight, unless you're saying rape can be forgiven overnight, but somehow overnight, it was okay to forgive Agrippa Mutambara. Help me balance with that.
Okay, I'm going to leave that for agency. You can deal with that agency. But there's one important thing which I know our viewers want to know. What was ED's message to the white community? Okay. What was he offering them?
Good. So ED touched on three principal issues when he met with the white community today. The first thing he touched on was the past. ED raised the important history that has been very sour, in fact, that broke at some point in the past, and it didn't break because of Zanu PF. It was broken when we were colonized. So there's been a legacy issue of a relationship that was never functional. And ED spoke to the effect that over time, when the white people wanted to deal with the white community wanted to deal with the break in the relationship breakdown, Zanu PF didn't want to. When Zanu PF wanted to deal with it, they didn't want to. So there had never been an opportunity for both sides to say, hey, I kind of don't like the fact that you took my farm. And for Zanu PF to say, I kind of don't like the fact that you took it from me in the first place. So he dealt with where the relationship legacy is coming from. The second of three things ED did, the second thing he did is he dealt with the present. He gave credit to where credit is due. He applauded them for those who decided to stay when a lot of them left. Because there is a time when a lot of the white community said, done. We're out of here. So he applauded the ones who decided not only were they going to stay, but under some very difficult circumstances, they were going to work for Zimbabwe and keep Zimbabwe going. Some of the white people in the white community run the biggest banks in this country. They own some of the biggest assets in this country. They drive a lot of the manufacturing exports in this country. In fact, I don't know what the accurate detail is, but from one of the presenters who was presenting, they accredited 14% of the economy to solely belong to that community of the white community, whether they attended today or they didn't attend today, but to that community. So he spoke to that, the importance of them as a group and not being alienated anymore. But most importantly, ED spoke about the future of the relationship he would like to see based on what he heard from them. Understand, ED, what we saw on Facebook or which you attended today was the meeting publico. We didn't see the pre-briefing that took place. Before ED came out, you'd notice when they walked in, ED was coming from a briefing room where the community leaders gave over their issues. And they raised what those issues were. Their issues were they wanted some congruency in policy. They wanted some conclusion on the matter of propriety title to land. But most importantly, they wanted to know, when you say Zimbabwe is open for business, are you talking to them too, or are you talking to white people outside of Zimbabwe? Because one of the issues that came up in the briefing room is it seems as if the white people you like to celebrate or we see on TV are the ones who are coming from out of the country. That was his driving issue with the white community today. And the meeting, by the way, was all about issues. And everybody left happy, taking selfies and everything.
Okay. There's some people here, we've got comments. We have Clark Makoni who says, I was there. ED was on point. He spoke well. Going to your agency, ED says that he is focusing on business more than politics. In fact, he says, look, we'll talk about politics after 5 years when the next election comes through. Do you think that he is offering more than what Chamisa is offering at this point? Is it fair to say that Chamisa has sort of taken the white community for granted and has not engaged them? What would you say to that?
Well, you see, I indicated earlier on that President Nelson Chamisa is a unifier. Has he met with the white community? Yes, he has. Has he met with the Indian community? Yes, he has. We have Indians, whites, Asians, Caucasians. We have people even within the party structure itself. So as opposed to classifying the community called Zimbabwe, classifying people in Zimbabwe ahead of these elections, President Nelson Chamisa is saying we have to do this together. We all have to come to the same table and discuss on how we are moving Zimbabwe forward. I don't have to create some special meeting to meet white people, special meeting to meet Indians, as if to suggest that in their own right they are less Zimbabweans. You come to White City Stadium today, it was beaming with white people. Probably more white people than those that attended President Mnangagwa's meeting in the morning. It is a reality. It's a reality. There were white people there. So now to then suggest that the message that Mnangagwa is propagating is that of bringing the white people back. They have been part of Zimbabwe but sidelined. And Chamisa is saying we want them and we work with them together as brother and sister.
Agency.
I want to put a public bet, okay? White City was beaming with white people. I quote him verbatim. If you, whether today or even in fact, we can do this the first thing in the next show. Anybody who's watching right now, if you can show me a picture of 20 white people, just 20, only 20, who were at the MDC rally today, I will give this man $1,000.
Okay, I'll let you have your bet again.
If he can prove
let's
20,
make it happen.
Just only 20. I'm not even going to talk about the beams of them.
Acie
just
likes
20. I'll
to
put
throw
$1,000
these
on it.
Okay,
But
the bet is on.
The bet is
agency,
on.
Let's make it
All right,
happen.
let's do this.
Let's make it happen. Okay,
Acie said a figure here. He said white capital probably contributes about 14% towards the economy. Do you not think that is quite a significant number for you to sort of say, oh, you know what, you're part of us, let's just carry on? Do you not think that, considering how capital on its own, you know, it's very sensitive, and they have to be sure that whatever their investments are going forward are going to be well taken care of, considering maybe their previous experiences in the previous government? I know that there was one guy who said, look, there was no engagement with the previous president. He never actually gave them audience, and they were happy that President Emmerson Mnangagwa was doing this. Do you think it's wise for for MDC Alliance President Nelson Chamisa not to engage them? I know on social media people were saying, but do you not think that while they contribute 14%, it is important to address them?
So there's an appalling assumption that I see is prevailing in the studio right now. And that is that President Nelson Chamisa never engaged white people, and he has never engaged business people. That's a false assumption.
Yes.
He has done that. So let's not work on that premise. Rather, let me just respond to the issue and element of capital that you just raised. Without debating, the nitty-gritties of statistics, I would want to say that, look, the problem in Zimbabwe started during Robert Mugabe's reign. The problems in Zimbabwe have never been that the white people in Zimbabwe are not interested to participate in the economics of Zimbabwe. But the problem has always been that there was so much policy inconsistency and lack of policy coherence in the country, which then affected or tempered with the confidence that every businessman, white, black, Indian, or whatever color, could have had in the country. So the promise that ED should be given to the business people in Zimbabwe, without classifying them with their race, the promise that it should be giving is that of restoring sanity in the policy makeup of the country. That's what we need. And yes, let's take from, there's one thing that I heard Mnangagwa say from, obviously, reports post. I would not have attended the meeting. He says that there shall not be a white farmer or a black farmer. There shall be a Zimbabwean farmer. So that's a rant that has got to be backed up by the restoration of property rights. Restoration of property rights does not only guarantee good business for the white man, it guarantees good business for every person who is doing business in Zimbabwe. So this is the promise we want. We don't want a promise to the white people. We want a promise to the people of Zimbabwe. This is what President Nelson Chamisa is doing. He's not giving a promise to say, okay, so you Indians, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure I open a street for you and it's just your shops there. No, He's saying, I'm going to make sure I create an environment in this country that enables you to do smart business. I'm going to create a conducive legal framework in the country that makes sure that your money is safe and its security is guaranteed. Your business security is guaranteed. This is the message that Zimbabwe is looking for right now. The economic revitalization of our country does not lie in just a small population of people. The economic revitalization of our country lies in that gold panner who is down there in Acturas. It lies in that house maid who's working down in Lotito. It lies in every Zimbabwean. So this is the message President Chamisa is saying, is that we will all work out and become a huge web of economic development. Not because you're white, you will play your part. What we will guarantee you is the safe playing ground for whatever business you're doing. We are opening up the environment for investment for purposes of FDI. We are opening up the business community within Zimbabwe, the small and medium enterprises. What are we going to do about the laws that have been hampering on your progress? So this is the message. It's not about a small number of people in an economy. Though it's significant, please quote me well, though it's significant, though it's very important for us to focus on certain players in the economy, the building of Zimbabwe's economy is not going to be a feat of one institution or two institutions. It's going to be a feat of every Zimbabwean.
I want to agree. I actually want to agree. And I will tell you what I want to agree to. I want to agree to a statement that Nelson Chamisa has met the white community. Nelson Chamisa has met the Indian community. Now, let's talk about contradictions again. Oh no, don't separate them. They're not supposed to be different entities. There's, one Zimbabwe. Oh, but he did meet the white community. Oh, but he did meet the Indian community. I want to agree, he did meet them. Like 4 of them, okay? Because no, the rest of them didn't want to meet him. So the 4 that wanted to meet him, he did meet them. But here is what is crucially important to master. There is something called special interest groups anywhere in the world. Now, racial profiles represent special interest groups. Minority groups represent special interest groups. Nelson Chamisa today was in Bulawayo, where there is a group of people in Bulawayo who have scars and wounds that only speak to a certain interest groups. Even Nelson Chamisa himself mentioned that. Ndataura na Trump ati kurugia 15 billion. Tendai biti say, taenda ku Britain, taona varungu. Varugu ene mari dzakawanda, mari dzevarungu. So the notion that this is not a separate group of people we're talking about, Nelson Chamisa repeatedly talks about varungu this, varungu vafara, tatara ne varungu varukufara. So there is a cluster of people called varungu. And why is this cluster of people called varungu supposed to be treated as a different cluster? It's because they control capital. Capital is not spread in this country. If agency goes to the bank today to Old Mutual, and he says, I want to get a mortgage, and I'm a young person, and I happen to run an SME that turns over $100,000 a year, the only thing that bank is going to ask him to prove is validate not only the legitimacy of your business, but the legitimacy of your ability to pay back this money. If a white kid, same age as agency, goes to Old Mutual. I went to school with white kids, like I'm sure a lot of people did. A lot of my white friends, at least they owned houses way sooner than my peers. I probably owned houses before them, but I'm a special case. But probably of everybody in this room.
Zanu PF case, isn't it?
Perhaps so. Maybe you should join Zanu PF so you can also own a house. But perhaps so. But my point being, the level playing field is not equal. And if you want to understand it's not equal, it will be anti-generational to say, oh no, we're all one big country, kumbaya, when the interests of white capital were never to progress your life. You tell me that over the last 25 years, white people were committed to making sure agency Gumbo becomes the landlord. You really think they were committed to that agenda? No, they were not committed to that agenda. The only agenda they have ever been committed to from the day they came here was theirs. So the notion that we're big, one big kumbaya, no. Zanu PF just happened to spend a lot of time trying to catch up.
You see, our country suffers from injuries of isolation, particularly within our own people. It's very sad that we can boldly claim and assert before the world that we are ready and willing, to classify and divide our society. Zimbabwe is at a point where it requires a unit. It requires people to move together as a single wagon, different obligations in the wagon, but progressing towards the same direction. So, is it true that the white capital oligarchs are relevant in the progression of Zimbabwe? It is true. If someone owns $10 million and they have a business here that makes a lot of money for the country, we want them. But the same way we want them is the same way we want the efforts of the man who is making sure that a dollar gets into that person's company. The same way we want these people to assist in the movement of Zimbabwe to the next level. It's the same way we want them. We want the maid who's taking care of these people's kids down there in Borodale or down there in Helensville. We want that person also's rights to be protected. So Zimbabwe should be defined by us as a unit. It should be defined by every contributor to the national grid as a unit. So this is what the president, Nelson Chamisa, has been trying to do. This is what the president has been doing when he's going around the country, talking to people, saying, look, whether you are a miner, whether you urimurimi wenzimbe kutriangle kuchiredzi kuchamayelo, chinokuda, because Zimbabwe, for us to progress, we need your efforts. But your efforts have got to be well remunerated, number one. Your efforts have got to, what you are remunerated with has got to be guaranteed, security has got to be guaranteed. Number two, you need to be able to go to the bank and get that which you worked for. So this is the message. Let's not further divide our nation. Let's not further classify our nation and make any other person feel like a lesser mortal. Because the journey to the promised land, the journey to the change that delivers, is a journey that involves everyone. It's a journey that involves munane mita, munu aneimba, ne munu arikuroja kumatapi kumbari. It's a journey that involves all of us.
I'm afraid we're running out of time, gentlemen. This has been an interesting debate, and there will be more to come. Each night, we will be broadcasting live, and we'll be discussing the election. This is the election playbook, and I want to give Acie a chance. Going forward, tomorrow, what do you think President Emmerson Mnangagwa's message should be? And I've asked this in the beginning, and I know you told me your thoughts. Ultimately, who won the votes? Do you think minds were changed? Are these the people who attended rallies today? Do you think they're going to change whoever they thought they were going to vote for? Do you think that they've changed their minds? Do you think that President Emmerson Mnangagwa, spoke to those with voter apathy?
So I would like to see President Mnangagwa stick to message. I think his mantra, Zimbabwe is open for business, his mantra on staying in touch with the issues and not personalizing his campaign is doing very, very good for him. As far as the day was concerned, look, I think Chamisa did well because he went to a province where Thokozani Kupe could have taken some votes for him and he possibly regained some of those votes back. I don't think President Mnangagwa in Marondera got himself any new votes. I think those were his votes anyway, so there's no battle there. I think where he did win new votes is when he went to the white community. So tomorrow is what I'm really looking forward to. There's a particular man in Zanu PF who I am paying attention to, and that's General Sibusiso Moyo. A lot of people are not covering him, but he's one of the deployed principals of Zanu PF who is on the ground for rallies we are not seeing. So tomorrow I'm actually attending one of his rallies. I also intend on attending MDC rallies because I want to get a feel of what happens at MDC. But I think as of today, Nelson Chamisa did well to bring Bulawayo back. Emmerson Mnangagwa did well to bring the white community.
You have been watching Election Playbook, and in the studio with me, I had two political analysts, Acie Lumumba and agency Gumbo. Acie says the man to watch going forward tomorrow especially is
SB
Moyo. So we will look at that tomorrow. And I still want to talk about ZEC. I think with the elders in the country, I think a few people would want us to discuss that. So tune in tomorrow at 9 p.m. on Facebook as we discuss on the election playbook.